So hello, good evening, everyone. I'm excited to see folks joining us. Like I said, it's seems like this month has gone by really quickly, but I am very, very excited about this evening's talk. From the Edmonton Public Library, I'm Cassidy. I am the community librarian at the Strathcona branch. So if you are near the U of A or happen to pop into the library here, you may see me wandering around. Feel free to come and say hi if that's the case. And I'm always happy to connect you with any resources from EPL's perspective. I won't take up too much of your time. I'll pass it over. I just wanted to do a quick little shout out. You may have seen some rumors that the library is opening a kitchen space. It is. It's actually going to be doing a sneak peek March 19th and 20th online, and we're hoping by April to start opening up classes and events in that space. It is a full commercial teaching kitchen with state-of-the-art equipment, workstations, and a space that can be rented hopefully by the community. So pretty exciting. Some really interesting stuff happening with that. And we would love to see people join us to learn about a different aspect of science, more culinary science on that side. With that, I will pass it on over to Valerie.
Thank you so much, Cassie. That is very cool. I can't wait to check out that space. Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Miller. I'm the Outreach and Engagement Coordinator for Future Energy Systems, and we are thrilled to have you here tonight. Before starting, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that the University of Alberta is located on Treaty 6 territory in Métis Region 4, a traditional gathering place for diverse Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe, Inuit, and many others whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to influence our vibrant community. As we explore energy systems, we acknowledge the territories, communities, and peoples that have been essential partners in this research. We are truly grateful to have the opportunity to work, study, and live on this land. So for those of you who have never been to an energy talk before, this is hosted by Future Energy Systems, which is a research project at the University of Alberta. It was launched in 2016 with $75 million from the Government of Canada's Canada First Research Excellence Fund to help Canada transition to a low net carbon energy economy. We focus on multidisciplinary research that develops the energy technologies of the near future, integrates them into today's infrastructure, and examines possible consequences for our society, economy, and environment. We also contribute to the development of solutions for challenges presented by current energy systems, which is a really good segue into what we're going to be exploring today. Future Energy Systems has over 100 research projects, over 150 researchers, and over 900 graduate students, postdocs, and highly qualified personnel, one of which you are going to meet today. We do wish to remind current and future viewers that the opinions expressed by the speaker are not necessarily those of the Edmonton Public Library, Future Energy Systems, or the University of Alberta. And I don't want to take any of our time today, so I'm going to ask our speaker to come up on screen, and I will introduce him in a moment. We will be pausing for questions about halfway through and then again at the end. So you can pop your questions in the chat whenever you think of them, and I will pull them out, or you can keep them for that question period. So our speaker tonight is Dr. Mohammed Arslan, an environmental microbiologist working on biological wastewater treatment using passive and nature-based solutions. His key research area is to study the interaction between plants and microbes for environmental cleanup without disturbing nature. He's also studying the evolution of specific microbes when exposed to recalcitrants in the environment. Dr. Arslan, welcome. I'm gonna get you to turn on your camera and pop your slides on the screen.
Thanks, Valerie. And thank you everyone for attending this talk today. Okay, I will share my slide now. see that?
We can see your slides.
Okay, great. So the topic I'm going to talk about today is the floating wetlands for the cleanup of for the cleanup of wastewater sources, but in the large scale. And this work we have been mostly doing is in Pakistan, which I'm going to present today as well. And I am the team member, but the primary person or the principal investigator is Dr. Muhammad Afzal, who is also the team leader. As Valerie introduced me very briefly, I am a postdoctoral fellow at University of Alberta, and my area of research is constructed wetlands, microbial ecology, and plant microbe interactions, and engineering them in a way that they can be used as passive and sustainable treatment solution in the large scale. I obtained my doctoral degree from Germany with research focus on antimicrobial in wetland and how they disturb the plant microbe interaction. Uh, uh, I was also serving as a guest scientist at Helmholtz Center for Environmental Research. And there are other duties I'm doing additionally, like I have some editorial positions and that's all. So talking about environmental pollution, there are some facts I recently obtained from United Nations website that more than 80% of wastewater, which is resulting from anthropogenic activities, is discharged into the sea or river without any pollution removal. And this is the major problem which is going to affect the future of modern societies, because water scarcity will be a major issue in the long run, which is affecting currently 40% of the global population, and it is increasing dramatically. About 70% of all water abstracted from river, lakes, and aquifers is used for irrigation. So if this source of water is contaminated, you can imagine what is going to happen. And also 1 in 4 healthcare facilities lacks basic water services globally. I have shown here the 2 pictures from River Ravi in Pakistan, and this river is now receiving the waste from different industries directly without any treatment. So you can see the condition, how it is at the moment. So there is a way to fix or to reclaim the water in these systems, and that is through plants and microbial community. And this approach is widely known as phytoremediation. The word phyto is for plants, and remediation means you're cleaning the environment using the plants. It is an efficient, cost-effective, and sustainable approach. Though it is very old approach, Romans were also using it to clean the wastewater. But with recent modification, the potential of and the studies, the potential of plants to a reclamation of wastewater is increased or enhanced. And this research, how we have harnessed through engineering and by studying the plant microbe interaction, is gaining popularity. For example, when there is a pollutant in an environment and a plant is growing in that environment through a number of activities such as phytostabilization, phytostimulation, phytoextraction, phytodegradation, phytovolatilization, through all these processes, the pollutant is either removed from the environment or it is degraded from in the environment. This plant-based approach, when we use it in the form of wetlands by growing the plants on a floating raft, we call it floating treatment wetland. We have a large water body and there is a mat on surface of the water, and this mat carries plants that can tolerate the harsh environmental condition in the water, and it allows the microbial community to proliferate or make strong biofilms in the roots and inside the plants. Then through a number of actions or mechanisms, the water quality is improved. For example, the plant roots itself, they act as biofilters. When the water is flowing from this direction to this direction, these biofilter or buoyant biofilter, they will not allow the suspended organic matter to pass. Rather, it will be trapped in the roots. And then the organic fraction is being degraded by the microbial community. And this microbial community, through a number of chemical transformation, they convert complex organic matters into carbon dioxide and water or simple inorganic matter. So this is, I have shown here some of the like the detailed root structure. These are the root hairs, and the microbes are like attached to these root hairs, and these microbes are approximately 10 million per gram of the roots here. Through biofiltration, through sedimentation, and by trapping of the organic matter, these microbes use them as food source, and then it is degraded. Finally, the nutrients which are released upon the transformation are taken up by the plants, and plants use them as food material. So in the end, we are using nature to treat the wastewater. That's why we call it nature-based solutions. Wetlands have other advantages in parallel, like they promote the biodiversity, they increase the aesthetics of the value. So once the system is growing, it attracts birds, it attracts other organisms to make a habitat in these systems. Although the main purpose was restoration of the water here, but it provides other services as well. So in this process or technology, the first step is the wastewater characterization. You must have to look what type of wastewater and what it contains. What is the level of contamination? What specific pollutants are there in the wastewater? So once you have characterized, you will select the plants or screen the plants that can grow on this kind of wastewater. So it should not be extremely toxic to the plants. Likewise, it should not be toxic to the microbial communities which we are going to use, or even which the plants have internally. So once we have screened the plants and bacteria based on the wastewater characterization, we inoculate them in the system, in this floating raft, uh, having plants vegetated. So this is the raft or mat where the plants are added, and then we put soil and gravel on top of it. So this raft can last long and is not being degraded or due to the natural weathering process, sunlight. Then this mat is shifted in the water body, and then this is the one unit. When we have more than one unit, we combine them, and all these units make a big structure known as floating wetland. You can see here in this picture. So as I mentioned, the first step is the screening of plants. We have to screen the best plant that can grow effectively on a particular wastewater. Also, we can add some flower plants to increase the beauty. Like here, we use here the helophyte is shown here, Phragmites, but there are some other plants, ornamental plants also added. So we can consider what plants can survive, and then after making an inventory or selecting the plant which can survive, we have to look for the microbes that can help the plant. This host microbe interaction is very important in wetlands. Also, just like humans, we have a lot of microbes in the gut that help degrade the organic matter through fermentation in the animal gut. So just similar to that animal gut analogy, the plants also have microbes, and these microbes must not be affected due to the toxicants present in the water. So what we do here, we again isolate number of microbes in the lab. We test whether they can grow on the wastewater, in the lab, and afterwards we enrich them or culture the microbes and inoculate in the plants. And once this host microbe interaction is established, it can increase the speed of wastewater reclamation process. Okay, so the first step is always starting in the lab, then going into the field. Here, what we did, we used small containers, and we used floating raft, which is polyethylene or polystyrene board. This mat is then vegetated with the local indigenous plants, and then it is installed on the container, and then the system will let the plants grow in this contaminated water over a few months of period. You can see here, now it is from this lab scale, it is coming to the macrocosm or mesocosm level, where here we have 1,000-liter water capacity, here we had 15-liter water capacity. So what we are doing, we are first checking the efficiency of this plant microbe interaction in the lab scale, then we are coming out at bigger scale, and we increase the water treatment capacity of the system. And also you can see here that how much stronger root network is there. We must harvest the plant from the mat, and after some time the plants will keep growing, and then you have a stronger root network. Once we have this stronger root network, we can introduce this system directly into the wastewater pond or wherever we want to. You can see here more closer picture for the roots. Here, this is 1,000-liter totes carrying wastewater from industrial sources. These are barrels, and this is the small lagoon or pond artificially established to see what is the potential of using this structure in the field. And then once we have all these studies done and we see the performance is very good and the system is working efficiently, we now shift this system in the field. To this end, we installed field scale wetlands in the stabilization ponds of Faisalabad city, which is the third biggest city in Pakistan. These are the stabilization ponds, and these are the wetlands installed here. So here is the structure of the 1 unit floating mat. We have this 1.2 meter width, and length of 1.8 meters. And then we make holes like this, and then the plants are vegetated. This is polystyrene board, which is used for insulation in the buildings. It was a great struggle to find which board or which floating mat can survive longer on these floating ponds when it is in the warmer climate, in the natural conditions. And after testing a lot of material, we discovered this was a good choice, and it was also 500 times less expensive than the commercially available floating mats in the international market. For example, the Biochemical company provides floating mats for such purposes, but they were very, very expensive. So installing them was not an option for a country like Pakistan. So here we locally developed this system, and now what we have seen after 7 years of operation and installation of the wetlands, they are still working efficiently, and they are surviving very well in this harsh environmental condition. For the stabilization ponds in Faisalabad, these stabilization ponds receive 60% sewage from the city and 40% industrial wastewater. So it's a mixture. And we selected for this purpose 6 different plants, which are Typha, Phlegmites, Canna, Brachiara, and Kuloa. And we added microbes with them, and then these systems were established. You can see here in the picture the pictures that people are working in there, installing in the ponds. So we have this structure uh, or this kind of system, which is flooding treatment wetland after installation, after a few months of installation. The plants are growing nicely. There are different plants, as I mentioned, and also we added some ornamental plants to increase the aesthetics, which are shown in the lower panels. What we have in the end in terms of wastewater remediation. Uh, the first year was not so good, but in the second and third year, the performance was very nice. Like chemical oxygen demand was reduced from almost 400 milligram per liter to 100 milligram. So it's like 4 times reductions. For biological oxygen demand, again, it is reduced from 200 to nearly 55 milligram per liter. Also, there were we tested the elements like heavy metals, chromium, iron, nitrogen, and nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, and we found there was a significant decrease over when after the treatment with these wetlands. Here I have shown the trends, like the study was started in June 2014 and the first phase was finished in August 2017. So almost 3 years. So as I mentioned, in the first year, the performance was not so nice, but then it was effectively removing the pollutants. Here, this is total suspended solid concentration shown in the picture and or chemical oxygen demand. And you can see that it is decreasing efficiently. This dotted line is the national environmental quality standards. So once we are below this dotted line, we're good, and we can say that the system worked nicely. And similarly, we tested so many other parameters, and we've discovered that almost all of them were effectively removed from the system, except a few like cadmium and chromium. They were not, uh, 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 they were initially very low, so we cannot conclusively say that the system was removing when the water was leaving the pond, but still it was positive. What we observed in terms of reduction in the interaction with the seasonal changes and performance of the system and reduction of pollutants. So during warmer periods, like from April to August, the wetland performance was efficient and most of the parameters were strongly linked to this time period. On the other hand, during winter or during colder period, the wetland performance was not so efficiently correlated with these water quality indicators. So we can still say that the system was working in the winter, but best correlation was found during the warmer time period. Talking about the cost effectiveness, overall, when we calculated the total cost, it was 0.00026 US dollars per meter cube of the wastewater being treated. This work was highly acknowledged in different local and international magazines and newspapers. You can see here, for example, these three are from the local newspaper and they are in Urdu language, but there are other in English as well. And this work also was highlighted as on the main page of Helmholtz Center for Environmental Research. And in the end, for this part, this work was also selected for the journal Nature Sustainability cover page. which you can see here. Now here in the middle, we will ask people to comment or share their opinion, or they can ask questions if they have.
Awesome. So yes, if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat. I've been collecting the ones we've received so far. This is so interesting to see characteristics of nature being used to heal nature. I think that is why we are all really here today. So the first question, we have a question about chemical and biological oxygen demand. Can you explain what those two things are and why is it such a good thing to reduce it when you're looking at a reclamation method?
Thank you so much. Actually, I just overlooked. I didn't explain what it is, considering this is very basic, but it's basic for us, not for the general people. So what chemical oxygen demand is, it's the amount of oxygen required by the microorganism to degrade the contaminant aerobically present in the system. So let's say we have a lot of organic matter in the water, and we have microbes which are going to use them as food. So how much oxygen is required to degrade this? So when we have a lot of organic matter, the demand is so high, but supply is limited. So that affects the process. But once the system is working efficiently, the oxygen demand is less. It means organic matter is already reduced, or it is going back to the same slide. I will explain here. So we have, for example, 400 milligram per liter of chemical oxygen demand in the inlet. And after 10 days of treatment, we reduce it to less than 100 milligram per liter. So it means the organic carbon which was present in the inlet was effectively used by the microbes and the degraded. Let's say it is 300 milligram per liter upon treatment. So the organic matter is still there and the system is not efficiently working. That's why we say that the performance is not good. But in this case, we have very good performance, and this is used as water quality indicator. Same is the case with biological oxygen demand or biochemical oxygen demand. When we talk about COD, it doesn't have to be through microbes. It could be the chemical transformation itself. But when we are talking about biochemical, it means the microbial fraction, which is contributing to this reduction. Does the removal of pollutants gets, yeah. So that is the answer to my to this question. So maybe if this is good, we can move to the next. Yeah.
That is a great answer. Great question. That is such an important background theory for us to understand. Is there a standard number that we're looking for? Like, do we want it to be 5 milligrams per liter, 100 milligrams per liter? What is considered a healthy environment?
Yeah, so in there are national environmental quality standards set by different organizations and even at country level. For example, in Alberta, we have 25 milligram per liter of COD allowed for the wastewater to be discharged in the streams. So, but in Pakistan, it's 100. We have less stringent criteria in Pakistan compared to what we have in Canada. But United States Environmental Protection Agency, they have their own wastewater release criteria for these standards. So once we met this standard, we are safe. But as I mentioned, every country they have their own, considering the local environmental conditions. So
excellent question. The questions are flying in. Amazing questions so far. So the next question is, what is the main process that is removing or degrading the contaminants? In this case, you talked about all those different kind of types of phytoremediation. What is the process here?
There are definitely, there are two things to consider. The first thing is what is the biological component in wetlands? It's microbes and it's plants. Microbes are doing the initial work. They are doing the transformation and degrading or mineralizing the complex organic compound into the smaller inorganic compound. Once this transformation is done, the plants will uptake these nutrients and use them as food for the growth and metabolism. So standard answer is transformation of organic compound into inorganic and then uptake of this inorganic compound by the plants. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. The next question is related to the plants that you're using and their roots. So does the removal of the pollutants get limited by the length of the roots being used to trap these pollutants? What if there are pollutants present at a greater depth than the roots can actually reach? How is your floating wetland still effective if they can't actually reach the pollutants?
Good question. We have actually, when we are talking about a lagoon or a stabilization pond, we have stratification. We have aerobic water layer in the top and anoxic or anaerobic water layer at the bottom. So there are aerobic degradation processes and anaerobic degradation processes occurring in the respective zones. Plant roots are all submerged in the water, and when the pond depth is not so big or it's a shallow pond, they can easily touch the surface of the pond. And then they fix these roots are fixed in the bottom of the pond, and they act as a complete biofilter and trap the sediments or suspended matter. So my answer would be that that these polluted are always reachable for the plants. It's a natural withdrawing process. It's a pump by the plant. Plant can easily extract when there is a pollutant. It's a diffusion process as well. So we have to consider that this is anyway going to happen, and we cannot eliminate the microbes even when there are no plant roots there. Microbes are doing their function anyway. In the bottom, in the top, wherever in the lagoon, wherever in the water body. So these microbes are transforming the pollutants, and then they are after transformation they are present in the water, and this from this water plant is taking up. Yeah.
Natural attenuation in all of its power.
Natural attenuation.
Awesome. And I think does it really relate back to the species that you're selecting? You're going to select the species that are going to grow the root lengths that you need in that situation. You're not going to pick something that grows only this deep when you need something.
Yes, that's where we have to design. When you design, you definitely consider all these aspects.
Awesome. So another part of kind of the design of your experiment is what happens to the plants? Do you have to harvest the plants off the floating wetland periodically? Do they die over time? They look very healthy in all the pictures, but at some point, parts of them are going to die. Do they just fall back in? What happens to the plants?
If we don't harvest the plant, the effectiveness of the system is reduced, because we want aggressive growth of plants on top of the mat. And when it is all filled with the plants, the mat, it doesn't allow more plants to grow. It's a natural competition among plants. When it's free, they will grow aggressively. And there is also natural effect, senescence effect of the plants. So we harvest them after 4 months periodically, and then cut everything from the top, and then more plants are growing. In this way, the system is working efficiently.
Awesome.
That's
yeah, it really
keeps
it growing, new plants, taking up more contaminants, and you really don't want them dying and falling back into the pond because you're just releasing those contaminants back in.
Exactly. And it will increase the organic matter if they fell down in the pond.
And then you're just upping your chemical oxygen demand and biological oxygen demand that you've just decreased.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got 2 more questions and then we'll jump back into the presentation. Keep them coming as we go through the presentation though, because we've got lots of time at the end for more. So the next question is related to natural floating wetlands. So Floating plants like water hyacinth form natural floating wetlands that don't need human engineering. How does your floating wetland design compare to these natural systems?
Yes, nature is always doing its job. What we do, we try to speed up the process, which is done by the nature. This water hyacinth is actually a small plant, and the efficiency of the system would be less compared to what we use multicellular eukaryotes, which are bigger plants, and they can aggressively remove the nutrient from the water body. And we also harvest them. So we are doing maintenance as well. Which is not being done by the nature. So once these plants are dying, they are being part of this system again. So here is the difference, I would say, with our system. Human engineering and human involvement is only to speed up the process, but nature is doing the job itself already.
That's really how I think about land reclamation in total, is we're just trying to support nature and speed it up a little bit.
Exactly.
Amazing. Okay, last question for now, and then we'll jump back in. So Robin's question is, how do you determine which bacteria work well with the plants to remove the pollutants? Is it a standard set of bacteria, or are you always doing different tests to figure it out?
Ideally, these bacteria are isolated from the plants which is being used in the system. So like there is already a host microbe interaction established by these bacteria, because not all bacteria can grow effectively inside the plant or even in the rhizosphere of the plant. Plant will select or recruit the bacteria on merit. So it's a mutual interaction. Bacteria provides phytohormones, and after transformation, they provide the nutrients. And what plants is doing, plants is allowing the bacteria to make colonies around the roots. It's providing space, nutrient, niche. So these services between both partners are helping this interaction to establish. So how we select them, as I mentioned, we ideally go for only those bacteria which are already living in the system. We enrich them and provide in the plants, even if their concentration is less. So let's say we have 10, giving an example, we have 10 different bacteria in the root of a specific plant. And we found that one type is very efficient in removing the pollutant, but its abundance inside the plant is less. So we culture them. After culturing, we inoculate them in the plant rhizosphere, and then they make stronger colonies in the short time. So again, we are helping the plant to establish strong interaction. So that is the way we are usually adopting, but there are other methods as well through which you can stimulate the population of these microbes, or uh, you can put a selection pressure on the plant to select those specific microbes.
And how do you test which ones are working better?
Yeah.
Do you separate the populations that are naturally there and run experiments?
Yeah, we do that in the lab. We culture them, like we have wastewater, and we provide we culture these microbes on that particular wastewater and see the growth patterns, whether it is growing effectively, whatever is being done by these microbes. So through a number of biochemical assays, we realize that this is the system we want, and this microbe can make effective partnership with the plant.
Awesome. I'm sure there are going to be so many more questions at the end, but I'm going to let you get back into it because I can't wait to learn more.
Yeah. So the second part is this was the basic work I presented, so you all have an idea how the system is working. And now I will give an example where else we have installed these wetlands and what we have seen so far. So we installed these similar wetlands for the crude oil polluted wastewater in a pit lake, kind of pit lake, uh, in the oil gas development company limited OGDCL in Pakistan, Chakwal. And this is the picture initially you can see. And after the installation, this was 40,000 square feet wetland system. And that's what we have after 5 years. In Chakwal, uh, now you can see how much effectively these wetlands are growing. And this is the quality of water. Here you can see how much quality is bad. And this is the quality of water after 5 years. And these wetlands are growing so nicely that birds are very happy as well. There are a lot of other organisms living there in these wetlands, and the water quality is so nicely improved. Talking about these water indicators or pollution parameters, the reduction of oil from this wastewater is 97%. And then chemical oxygen demand 89%, biochemical oxygen demand 92%, TD total dissolved solid 58%. Also some heavy metals. And this was again acknowledged by the company, the Oil and Gas Development Company Limited. They acknowledged that this system worked efficiently. It was a very successful project. And we are very happy, and we want to expand this in the other ponds or other pit lakes. Here you have to consider that retention time was more than a year, because here we are dealing with hydrocarbons. They take a long time for the degradation. In the sewage system, it was 10 days. Another picture from the same company, but in a different locality, with a retention time of 3 months. You can see that these wetlands are growing nicely. Then the Toyota Lailpur Motors at Sargodha, Faisalabad, they also contacted us to install these wetlands, but they wanted to install the constructed wetlands, not really the floating wetlands. And also, but in a sequential manner, like floating wetland and then constructed wetland, so in a combined as a combined system. So with less space, with this approach, by combining different strategies or different wetland system variants, we can increase the speed of pollutant removal and also decrease the space, because they don't have these lagoons. So in the end, it is a small system that can treat approximately 7,000 liters of wastewater per day. This is the inlet and this is the outlet. And the hydraulic retention time is 3 to 5 days, I think. Yeah. Sorry, it's 6 days. So here again, the reduction of chemical oxygen demand from almost 400 to 25 milligram per liter, very nicely, even it is meeting the Alberta standards. Biochemical oxygen demand from 200 to 15, maximum 5 to 15. Total suspended solids also decreased. Detergents which are present in this wastewater, they are decreased from more than 200 milligram per liter to up to 13 milligram per liter. Oil and grease less than 10 milligram per liter. So very effectively working. Then another Toyota unit, they contacted us to install a similar system. It's Chenab motor in another city. And again, the similar system was installed, and it is also working efficiently and treating 7,000 liter wastewater per day. We tested this system for the Interloop Limited, which is textile company, and it's world third in the list of top 3 SOx producing company in the world. And you can see here, this is the inlet and this is the outlet. And these again 1,000-liter capacity tote containers are used in constructed wetlands. In constructed wetland, we have substrate like sand or gravel, and this substrate also help absorb the pollutant in addition to degradation by microbes and plants. With hydraulic retention time of 10 days, reduction in COD, color, BOD, and nutrients was effective. And container wash station at Khanewal, another system. This system is treating 1,000-liter wastewater per day. And you can see here that it is installed. The system is also working for this Pepsi beverage wastewater treatment plant, and it's treating 600 meter cube of wastewater per day with retention time of 5 days. For tannery wastewater, similar system is removing or cleaning treating the wastewater 210 meter cube per day with retention time of 5 days. And then another unit treating 33,000 almost meter cube per year of wastewater with retention time of 5 days. Hatchery Beverage is another company. They also installed the similar system, and initial the value of COD was more than 3,000 milligram per liter, which is so high. But more than 70% reduction is seen in 5 days with this system, and it's treating 1,000 liter per day per scale. Good thing about these wastewater is it has easily degradable organic carbon like sugar. And microbes love this substrate. They grow aggressively and degrade. So that's why you see in 5 days, the degradation is 70%. And initially this COD is so high. In another sewage wastewater treatment plant, it's Srigoda, crystalline chemical industry. Conclusions. So until now, more than 100,000 feet square of floating wetland are installed in approximately 20 sites in Pakistan. And in 8 years, it has improved the quality of about 700 million meter cube of wastewater. That is the total impact of this system we have done so far individually. But if there are other groups working or they want to work, definitely they can contribute. So floating wetland is a low-cost, sustainable, environmental friendly approach. It is more applicable for domestic wastewater, but it also works for industrial wastewater, and it can be integrated with other technologies that can be anaerobic tanks, constructed wetlands, and filtration, and even advanced oxidation processes. So thank you very much. That's all for today. So yeah, if you have questions, please ask.
Thank you so much. You can only see Cassie and I, so we will give you a wild round of applause. That was so interesting. I have learned so much about how nature can be really used to benefit our environment. So the floor is open. You all had amazing questions first time around. I want to make sure you have the space to ask them now. So ask away anything you want. The first question that we have is, are there concerns about wildlife? You really talked about the benefit of these wetlands to be a natural system so that they are a space for wildlife. Is there concern with wildlife living in these wetlands for habitat or safety concerns?
So far, we have not done this research. But we believe that because these living organisms, at least, they are happy and they are making it. Let me give you an example here. What I can recall for these ponds in pit lakes. it was a general perception that people don't want their livestock to even go close to these ponds. There was some rumors that, or some facts that if they go inside the pond, they will die. Even people will die because they're so toxic. Even these ponds were so much smelly. But now, if living organisms are already making habitat in these systems, it's it's a lot better than what we had before. I cannot completely say that they don't have any harmful effects. Of course, there will be some effects, uh, but still the system is working nicely and it's helping overall, I would say. To give a more precise answer, there should be more research on this domain or this site.
Absolutely. There's always more questions to ask. I feel like we listen to these talks and we're like, here, it's another 20 research projects for us to ask questions about. And absolutely, it's finding that balance. We've created habitat, figuring out how effective is it. So if anyone wants to do a research project, contact Mohammed. The next question we have is about retention time. What is it? Is it the water let in and out periodically?
Yeah,
or is it the retention based on continuous flow, an average based on continuous flow?
It's the retention time is mostly for like how long you want the water to be exposed to this plant microbe system or this wetland system. So if you have a wastewater with complex contaminants which are not easy to degrade, you have to increase the retention time. For example, in this hydrocarbon, for these hydrocarbon contaminated ponds, it was 1 year. On the other hand, for the sewage wastewater, it was 10 days because it's mostly municipal waste coming from homes, easy to degrade, not industrial sources, not much industrial sources. So yes, retention time is how much you want to expose the water or you want to expose your system to the contaminated water.
Right. And there's another question related to that. Can the choice of plant or bacteria influence the retention time as well as the type of wastewater?
So if you select wrong bacteria and plants, you have to increase the retention time. And if you choose the right set, you definitely save your time. You increase the efficiency of the system.
So it's really important to do that research ahead of time, to do that understanding so that you're not selecting wrong and having to go back and fix it later. Okay.
We do a lot of lab studies initially before going to the field, that how much time we have to select. And when we are translating the results to the field, we give extra time always. Like in the lab, the good results are getting in 3 days. In the field, we will make it 6 days.
Absolutely. That buffer period.
Yeah, buffer period, natural.
Okay. We've got a couple questions. Linking back to a question we asked earlier about what happens with your harvested plants. So you're harvesting your plants. What happens to them? Because they've been enriched with contaminants. Is there any possibility of secondary pollutants? What do you do with those harvested plants?
At first, I would say that they don't have like a lot of or a large volume of or large amounts of contaminants, because this is a natural system. Plants would never uptake a pollutant that is harmful. It's a natural system. So it's acting as a filter initially, rejecting what doesn't have to be taken up. So only those which are being taken up by the plant, mostly, not completely, I would say, they are inside, and then there are microbes inside the plant. These bacteria or microbes are known as endophytes, and now these endophytes start doing the job that inside the plant. They start degrading the contaminants. Even the degradation continues inside the plant, not even the outside in the water. So still, if there is some leftover or some fraction being accumulated in the plants, that is below the toxicity level. Otherwise, the plant would die. Now talking about what we do or what people do. We harvest them, and the villagers, the local people, they use them as biomass. They simply do the incineration. That's it.
Again,
Yeah.
using nature to help people in this case, finding
Yeah.
that multi-use that we
Yeah,
can do.
exactly. They use them in their houses for cooking purposes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I just have to say again, audience, you're amazing. There are so many questions flying in. I can't even collect them all. So if I do miss your question, please pop it back in because it might have just flown by me and I may not have seen it. So the next question we have, are there any pollutants that floating wetlands can't deal with? Is there some stuff that you just have to say, we need a different method?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. Are there any pollutants that wetlands are not suited to deal with?
Yes. Antimicrobials. They are made to be non-degradable. They can affect the non-target organism, for example, microbes. They are always made to affect the microbe, kill the microbe or stop the growth of the microbes. When they are present in the system, they can impair the wetland performance. And if they are present at high concentration, they are even toxic to the plants. So again, selection of microbes which have degradation capacity of these contaminant is very important. You cannot select sensitive plants and sensitive microbes for specific pollutant. That's why we have to characterize the wastewater in the beginning. If you are treating the livestock wastewater, you should expect a lot of antimicrobials. So that is the one domain you want to consider. So wetland, similarly, the emerging contaminants are also known as organic micropollutants. It's a smaller concentration of pollutant, and wetlands may not or would not remove them from the water body. And that we have seen here in Alberta in the Brazil County project in the wetland system. It could be the climate effect as well, but the reduction of organic micropollutant, several estrogens was not obvious in this system. Yeah. So yes, there could be pollutants.
So very effective overall, but there's just those few little areas that you need to look at a different method or a secondary cleaning method on top of your wetland. And you mentioned the Brazil project. I will share a link to the Brazil project if you'd like to learn more about it. And I've got some questions related to kind of use of wetlands here in Canada, but I want to make sure I ask Lisa's question. Thank you for resharing. Have you done any work or heard of anything regarding the use of floating wetlands to maintain dugouts for watering cattle?
There is already a lot of research. If you go to Google and put these keywords, you will find. But we have not done, like we have done this in the small scale, in the lab scale, but we have not done it in the field scale. So what we have done here, I have presented. But once this system is going to work for this kind of wastewater as well, once you have done a good initial work.
Thank you so much. Lisa, I hope that helps and that you can find some research that you're looking at. And I'm just going to share the link to that video to the Brazil wetland. So if anyone wants to see it, you can check it out. The next question is, we're talking about floating wetland treatments. Is it possible to do submerged aquatic plants for cleaning up your wetlands, or does that present challenges?
Yes, sure. Some of them are submerged. Yeah, we can use them, definitely.
Absolutely. I guess nature uses them often. The only challenge would be you can't necessarily harvest them as easily as your floating wetland treatments. Okay, next question that we have, again, amazing questions, keep throwing them in there, is related to using wetlands here in Canada. So how effective are floating wetlands as a treatment in cold climates? Do the plants, the microorganisms remain active over the winter months?
Top may not be very effectively working, but definitely at the bottom of the pond. Remember one thing, microbes are anywhere working in any system, even in the glaciers, in the polar ecosystems. Everywhere there are different types of microbes. You cannot find a single place on earth where there are no microbes. Microbes are everywhere, and they are doing this job anyway. It is slow or it is fast, that is different story. In our case, in Canada, with colder climates, we have seen some effect, but not a very strong effect, just like we have seen here in Pakistan, which was strongly correlated with the weather as well. And during the warmer period, the treatment was effective, and there was strong correlation with so many water quality indicators during the warmer period. Colder climates would be great to consider. That's why we are thinking here in Canada to consider adding photocatalyst in the water. So with smaller amount of sunlight, we can increase the degradation, or we can support further these plant microbes. Like once we have these photocatalysts present, they will be doing the initial transformation, then the complex compounds are already transformed into simple, and then microbes can further degrade them, the plant can take up. So we have to support with some engineering here in colder climates, but it can work definitely.
Again, just finding those multiple solutions that you layer on top of each other to figure out.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the next question we have is size of communities. So how big do these wetlands need to be? You kind of talked about two different kinds of floating wetland treatments. How big do they need to be to serve cities? Is this a feasible option for treating city wastewater versus small town versus scale? Where are we in scale?
Very nice question. Yes. If you are installing floating wetlands in a pond or stabilization pond or a lagoon, ideally the area it should cover should be around 20% of the total lagoon area, which is very difficult in most cases, especially if the pond is anaerobic. You have to increase the wetland area. And here I would like to add that, again, the selection of plant is important, because some plants, being helophytes, they deposit the atmospheric oxygen in the rhizosphere, in the pond. So they increase the oxidation power in the water. Once oxidation power is high, the pollutant transformation is high by microbes. So that is also a thing to consider. Once we have these plants, we can reduce the surface area of the wetland. And if they are not indigenous and we must rely on indigenous plant, then ideally it should be 20%, but people have used between 2 to 20% and they have seen good results. Yeah.
Okay. So again, a lot of variability, a lot of options available.
Yeah, but if you want to save the space, if you don't have a lot of space to install floating wetland, you will go for constructed wetlands, where you add the gravel or sand or the substrate where the plants are growing. So you increase the absorption of pollutants on these substrates, which we have been also doing in some of the projects.
Again, adding all those different layers, those human impacts to make it work faster, make it work a little better in different environments. Awesome. Related to that, you've talked about kind of space challenges. One of the questions was, what are the challenges you faced during the whole process?
There are so many challenges at every level. I don't know how to answer this question. It's so big question, but I will give an example. For these hydrocarbon contaminated pit lakes, plants were not growing well. And we had to add a lot of phosphorus in the water. That is essential plant nutrient. And when the phosphorus concentration was high, the growth of plants was good and the microbial community was establishing strong colonies. So that is the one challenge we faced. But as I mentioned, it differ average, we see different challenges for different kind of conditions, different wastewater types. Yeah.
And there's so many layers of challenges that we face when it comes to this kind of research.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be very site specific. You have to understand initially what the site is offering and what you can do with that and how much you can do. There, you have to consider the the guidelines as well. Like if you cannot use uh, those plants which are not indigenous. You cannot introduce a species, non-native species. Yes, we have seen very good results with Phragmites, but Phragmites is not native to, for example, Alberta. And I'm saying I will bring Phragmites from outside. No, it's not an option. It's a challenge. I have to work with the locally available plants and microbes.
Absolutely. I guess one of the big challenges overall is there's no one size fits all solution. What you find works in Alberta or in Pakistan, you can't just assume is going to work somewhere else. It's so variable to the conditions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to start at some point at some level, and then you will keep improving your system over time, and you will learn that there are so many challenges.
Absolutely. Again, more questions flying in. You're all amazing. Next question is where you got those plants. You're talking about you really want to use native plants, indigenous plants. Do you use a nursery for those plants? Are they transplanted mature plants into the wetland? Are they seeds?
Yeah, we grow these plants in nursery. We have nurseries. Yeah.
Okay, so are they often quite young, or because that way they can grow mostly in the wetland?
Yeah, they are always seedlings are used or young plants are used.
Okay. Yeah, you want to give them as much space to grow on your wetland versus in your greenhouse.
Going back to this picture, you can see. Yeah, here.
All those tiny plants.
Oops. Yeah.
Okay. Great question, folks. Next one. Can anyone do this? Are wetlands that filter pollutants something that anyone create, or is there specialized equipment needed?
It's not specialized equipment. You need plants and bacteria and a floating mat. That's it. You need maybe substrate like sand or you need to have knowledge about how you are going to use them, but there is no equipment. Yes, you need some sort of initial equipment, like for this polystyrene board, you have to have something that can make hole in this board, in this shaft. And also you need equipment in the lab where you want to culture the microbes or you want to study the properties of plants or microbes. So you need some sort of, but once you have this work done, it's not a big job, a big deal. It's very simple. After
It's
some
like
time.
you need a consulting company to do the background research with you to figure out what microorganisms, what plants, but you could actually build the mat yourself once you have that info.
Exactly.
Okay, great questions. Again, I am just waiting for you all to send me photos of your floating wetland treatments that you put in your ponds and your lakes. Please send photos. I can't wait to see. Again, we're going to be wrapping up in a couple minutes. If you have any more questions, pop them in the chat. The next one that we have is related to climate change. With the changing climate, droughts being more often, less water being available necessarily, what concerns do you have in the use of floating wetlands as a treatment method?
I think I'm not 100% sure what is the question, what is the connection of the question. Like climate change is affecting the water quality, or climate change is affecting the availability of water, and then from where we are going to get the water for the, I'm not 100% sure how it is linked to these systems. These are man-made systems. If the environment is not suitable and we have to do it, we have to make the environment suitable. And if you are talking about the natural wetlands, how they are going to be affected in the climate crisis, yes, then my answer would be that yes, these natural wetlands are will be largely affected due to these uh, climate crisis and due to these longer droughts periods. That is one thing which should be considered, and scientists are already considering it,
Absolutely.
considering the natural wetland. But for this kind of system, can you explain, Valerie, if I am missing something?
I think you've addressed it. If we have if we have made a human treatment system, then we've decided that this is where the water needs to go. So it's just, I guess, all of a water budget. If we're putting the water into the wetland, then we've made that decision. But it means that potentially in climate change, that water can't be used for something else. So it's picking your battles in a way. I think that's where the question's going.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. Again, if you've got any last ones, pop them in now before Mohammed finishes this one. A big question, a pie in the sky question. Do you think we can ever fully remediate all of the polluted water in the world? Is that possible, or is that out of reach?
Zero discharge policy, every country wants it and every good nation wants it, but it needs a lot of effort and a lot of resources through these natural system and even with engineered system. Can we ever do that? I don't think so, but maybe yes, we can. We will be able to find solution. We are already doing in countries with better economy, but in developing countries, for example, it would be very difficult because the population is growing fastly, resources are shrinking. People concerns about the wastewater are less. They have more other priorities. Government interests are different. So there are so many things. And I think it will be great to have complete water treatment, but it doesn't look like that. I'm from Pakistan and I know the situation there. So my answer would be influenced from the situation there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess on a hopefully hopeful note, what can we do? What can people learning about this kind of treatment, people who are passionate about the environment, what can individuals do to help? Do you have any advice?
Save water. Yeah, use less water and make less discharges. Also, whatever you're doing, think about the footprint, carbon footprint, energy footprint, what you're producing in the end. Think green. Think green, that's what I would say, yeah.
I love that. And I think that's such a good way to end today's talk.
Yeah.
Think green. Keep coming back to energy talk so that you can learn more things. Yes, it's a shameless plug. I 100% will admit that. Our next energy talk is March 30th on The Future Ain't What It Used to Be, Alberta's rapidly changing electricity system. So the link is in the chat. Please sign up. We have got a link to a survey. We'd love to know what you thought of tonight and what topics you'd like to hear more about. Mohammed, that was an amazing talk tonight. I have learned I know you and we've talked about your research before, but I learned so much new stuff tonight. It's always so exciting. Thank you to our audience for your amazing questions. Mohammed, would you like to say any final remarks before you pass it to Cassidy to sign us off?
Thanks to everybody for listening and attending this talk tonight. And yeah, I think we are all contributing to our best level for the environment, and we should keep doing that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cassidy, go ahead. Oh, we cannot hear you. Oh, of course, tech problems right at the end. At least it wasn't during. Well, Cassidy figures out the sound. No? Okay. There are many EPL talks that you can sign up for. So check out the events on the EPL website. We will hope to see you again next month. And thank you again so much, everyone.
Thank you. Oh, now we're good. Yes, thank you, everyone. Sorry about that. Of course, right at the end. Yes, and I'll be sending out one final email with all of the links. So if you didn't pull them from the chat, not to worry, we have your back, and we hope that we'll see you next month.